Hello, I'm excited to share with you my capstone about creating an arts and entrepreneurship center. I was very creative when I was little, and this creative energy needed to go somewhere that wasn't the inside of my house. So my mom signed me up for art classes that the city organized in the basement of a city building. I took these classes for years, and I learned a lot from them because they were my only source of structured art education as a homeschooler. I combined my artistic knowledge with my budding entrepreneurial interest and started selling what I had made. As my knowledge and business grew, I was chosen to be an intern at the newly built art center in my town. I was able to learn from them and help with some of the same classes that I took when I was little, and that was really cool. And now I have the opportunity to use what I have learned to create an art center concept to give people a place to develop their creativity as well as their businesses. In 2002, 45% of 18 to 34-year-olds said hobbies and recreational activities were important to them. And by 2023, that number was 66%. 54% of adults surveyed attended creative activities, 53% created or performed art, and 26% learned about art in some way, either formally or informally. Of the ones that participated, over half participated just to spend time with their family and friends. Interest in art has continued to rise among young Americans, and they're combining creativity with the passion or need to earn additional income. And one of the most popular ways to do this is to sell handmade products. I've been selling jewelry and small sculptures at craft fairs and online since I was 14. And now we need to define terms. An art center is a community space. It's often funded by the city or a large organization and given large grants. And they can provide spaces for any creative activities, but they're generally analog in what supplies they give to guests. A makerspace can be community funded. They're often part of schools or libraries, but if they're big enough, they can also stand on their own. While makerspaces can and do provide analog tools, they generally specialize in techie ways to be creative, like laser cutters or 3D printers. But people are becoming overwhelmed by technology, and it's starting to take up an even bigger part of our lives. So this center will specialize in analog and traditional crafts. That research gave me a basis to start thinking about the design of the space. Current solutions, like innovative handmade retail businesses, provide spaces for artists to sell their work, and Make South Bend is a smaller version of what we're imagining today. They have studio spaces for artists, they have classrooms, and they have a handmade retail area so artists can sell their work. Specialty craft shops have a limited selection of classes that they offer. Think of a yarn store offering knitting classes. And online businesses can be limited as well as expensive. Paint your own pottery is a classic and nostalgic example of a fun way to make a keepsake with friends. All of these solutions can be sorted into one or some of these categories, and they're not bad. We're just trying to achieve different goals. They can be messy, with stuff everywhere and supplies in unsorted and unlabeled drawers, so even the staff don't know what supplies they have available to them. Or the opposite of that is being overly formal, a place where you go to respect the art, but not create art of your own. Or limited in scope, like craft shops that only offer one medium and only offer classes at certain times, and you can only participate if you sign up for a class. All of these factors can lead to intimidation, which increases the barrier of entry for the potential user and keeps them from even beginning the process of creating something of their own. This is what AI created when I asked it to create an art gallery and an art center. One is very sterile and uninviting, and the other one is a mess. It's not a space that I would want to spend a lot of time in. The goal of this project is to create a space that supports, inspires, and excites visitors before and after they arrive. And I'm achieving that goal by providing options so that people can be creative, but not so many that they don't know where to begin. Providing tools that are an investment or hard for normal people to come by allows people to experiment without committing to investing in a tool for themselves that they don't even know if they like using yet. A space that is cold and closed off doesn't encourage exploration or learning. So I researched how architecture can facilitate self-led learning. There will be classes in the Arts Center, but they are an accompaniment to self-led learning and not the main purpose of the building. And art and entrepreneurship are beginning to become intertwined to the younger generations, so this space encourages and supports entrepreneurs. Montessori is an education philosophy that fosters rigorous, self-motivated growth for all people in all areas of their development, with the goal of nurturing each person's natural desire for knowledge, understanding, and respect. Montessori architecture is a way to apply these principles to support people through architecture. That could be things like clearly labeled storage so that guests can interact with the building without needing the assistance of staff. The building will also have classrooms, and those spaces needed to be designed as well. A child should be excited and inspired by what he gets to discover during his visit. And a community member should be able to rest in a comfortable spot and focus on making progress on a project. A group of friends just passing through should be able to walk away with souvenirs that remind them of the time that they had together. My final brief for the project is to design an art center and handmade marketplace using experience and exhibit design principles, system design, and business planning to inspire active arts participation and support small businesses. I analyzed different mediums to decide on which ones would be featured in the building. Painting, fiber arts, and pottery are all easy to learn, but provide a lot of depth so that people can continue exploring once they start. The activities room will support small woodworking projects, candle and soap making, glasswork, paper crafts, and jewelry making. Now that I had guidelines in place, it was time to create the building structure. A storage room is important for holding ceramics that need to be fired or supplies for upcoming classes that aren't stored in the rooms. A room for tools holds resources that aren't used every day, but may still be requested by guests or used in classes, like glassworking supplies, printing, and other tools that aren't part of a casual user's tool set at home and may need a bit more supervision. Seating arrangements around the building give guests some privacy and space outside of the larger rooms. The day-to-day activities of the building are supported by the receptionist and office staff. The receptionist is there to return projects that need to be picked up and guide guests who may need the structure of some help. The retail space and conference room are for area entrepreneurs. The retail area gives artists who can't commit to long craft fairs or large wholesale orders an audience. And the conference room hosts talks for all age groups because there's a problem. There's a gap in information for those too old to have a lemonade stand, but not old enough to buy a brick-and-mortar location of their own yet. The stars of the show are the 4 creative spaces that focus on a single activity, but are flexible enough to hold classes that expand on the activity that's always offered in the room. I gave each of these areas square footage in an architectural program, and then a bubble diagram found the ideal arrangement of the spaces. The mood board captures the bright and energetic feelings of entering a whimsical space. And I carried that through in my architectural concept, dynamic. The building needed to break down barriers and be inspiring and immersive, flexible enough to adapt to change, but stable enough to reliably guide guests through the space. Poured concrete is the main floor material in the building because of its easily cleanable epoxy top coat. And terrazzo look-alike material is good for the same reasons, and it's also colorful. Carpet in the textiles room brings a cozy atmosphere, and sound panels dampen the sound that may carry out of the larger rooms. A place that matches these bright and bold design choices is Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. The main attractions in Pigeon Forge are along one main road called Parkway. That is an ideal location for the Arts Center. Right behind the main commercial buildings is a large local community that also frequent the attractions. The Arts Center is in the same lot as Wonderworks, and if you've ever been there before, that's the Upside Down House, and close by to the Titanic Museum. People are already in the mindset of discovery and exploration when they're in the area, so this was the perfect site to place the center. This shows how people coming off of the main road would get to the building, and a closer-up view of how the three buildings are arranged, and how the Arts Center is placed on its lot. The drop-off allows big groups to be dropped off close to the door, and the large grassy area that extends out the back is the perfect place to host a craft fair, while food trucks park in the drop-off lane. I chose this floor plan because its layout is the most practical for those working and creating in the building without being overly dull and square. The three main rooms are facing the entrance, so guests are immediately inspired by the creative spaces with enough space in the lobby that they aren't immediately overwhelmed. There's a restroom in the painting area for guests that might get messy. The activities room is connected to the tools room for easy access during classes. The restrooms are in a central location, so it's close to all users of the building. The offices are secluded and have right angles. The pottery room is set apart to reduce noise that could bother other areas, and the storage and pottery room are next to each other for easy access to the kiln and ceramics that need to travel back and forth between the rooms. A guest could flow through the space like this, while a staff member may enter in the back just to do some work in the storage room. The floor plan came to life when everything was put together. Wayfinding on the floor and walls guide guests through the space and projects that are associated with each room. A tourist that is already in the discovery mindset may be intrigued after visiting Wonderworks. He sees the pencils holding up the roof of the building. He convinces his family to go, and his mom waits to be greeted by the receptionist when they walk in. He's too busy absorbing everything there is to see, especially the chandelier made of art supplies hanging from the dome that link the spaces together. He runs into the painting room to start painting a plate as a souvenir of all he and his family have been able to do on their trip. Another group is already in there being creative. Arrows guide him through selecting a paint and a surface, and the process of painting from start to finish. And when he's done, he washes his hands before they set the project on the drying rack. They'll pick up their project toward the end of their trip after it's been fired and ready to take home. A local businesswoman rushes into the building because she's late to setting up the conference she's teaching to other entrepreneurs. She checks on her stock in the retail area before heading down the hall to the conference room. She gets hooked up to the screens, and now she waits for her students to arrive. After her talk, she heads back down the hall to the textiles room. She's ready to relax after her busy day and takes out the project that she's been working on for the last couple of weeks. She needs to pick up some more thread because she's being creative and adding a flower that the pattern didn't account for, so she goes to the thread bins. She thinks about sitting in a soft chair, but decides to go back out into the lobby to sit while watching the evening sun. A staff member uses her evening to take a class and learn about some advanced candle making techniques. They had to get some extra supplies for the class from the tools room. After class, she resumes her duties and goes to the ceramics room to pick up any final projects for the day. There's still some guests, so she just finishes up what she can. There are some cylinders left on wheels from the group that learned wheel throwing the other day. She carefully places them on the cart to be moved to the storage room to dry in safety. She also has some boxes of replacement supplies that she needs to unpack. She checks on the latest kiln load. Before leaving, she decides to take the long way. She's excited to be part of a community that supports each other while they grow and nurtures creative spirits. She sits and enjoys time talking with her family before they leave to catch an evening show. In review, the Arts and Entrepreneurship Center provides options and independence to guests without overwhelming them, and it gives people access to craft supplies and tools that they may not have had access to otherwise, and it uses architecture to make the space inviting and exciting, and it balances structure with creativity, and it supports local entrepreneurs on their journey to grow their businesses. Thank you.